anticipation, excitement, maybe even a little bit of dread are what I'm feeling. Maybe even some of you are feeling those feelings out there right now, because as of right now, when I'm filming this, I am 3-4 hours away from the College Football Playoff Committee releasing their first week's rankings, ladies and gentlemen. The first iteration of the 2025 CFP rankings are released in several hours. Now, by the time you're seeing this, they would have already been released. But for me, I'm feeling all of those things. And for you at this time, you're also feeling all of those things. And you may still be feeling those after you've seen the rankings. I may still be feeling those after I've seen the rankings, but we do not know as of right now what those rankings are. You see right next to me the show, everybody. Week 11 preview show. I'm going to react to the college football playoff rankings. And you're thinking, Ian, how are you going to react if you don't know what they are? Well, I will react to them after and then put that clip in at the beginning of this show so you all can see that first. And then we will have 3 game previews for you this week. Then we have upset alerts and then the picks, okay? It is a massive week in college football, week 11. How have we gotten here so quickly? I do not know. Time flies when you're having fun. In fact, we have a lot of fun here at the Fritts Show. Go ahead and drop down below and subscribe, and then follow on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram as well. We are about to jump in for you to my reaction to the college football playoff rankings. But for me, it is the 3 game previews that we have coming your way. Now, some SEC teams this week have scheduled some cupcakes. Ole Miss, they're playing the Citadel. Oof. But some Big Ten teams, they're some of them are playing like Penn State this week. Some of them are playing Rutgers. So really, it kind of evens out, right? Doesn't it? Calm down, Big Ten people. It's a joke. Joke. It's a joke. I'm just poking fun a little bit. Poking the bear, okay? We're going to jump right in to the college football playoff rankings reaction. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you have the college football playoff rankings right next to me. This is my initial reaction. This is my first time really looking at them, digesting them, taking them in, kind of dissecting what the committee has done here. Okay, let's start at the top and then work our way down. Ohio State, Indiana, A&M, Alabama, Georgia, same top 5 as the AP poll. Not shocking that that's the top 5. I am a little shocked, and we'll talk about it throughout this top 25 here, that they did end up going Ohio State at number 1. Okay, and I'm assuming, haven't heard what they've said, I'm assuming that's because they think Ohio State is the best team in the country. Okay, that is because they think, hey, we think this is the best team. Okay, my issue with that is that in no world, you go ask any of those people, in no world are they going to say BYU is a better team than Oregon. In no world, really, are they going to say is BYU a better team than an Oklahoma. Even then probably a Tennessee down there, okay? My issue with this is the words better than, okay? That cannot be a metric that we rank teams based off of, okay? It just cannot be how we do things. And I'm sure that's how they went with Ohio State over Indiana, because you look at common opponent, Illinois. Ohio State beat them by what, 17? Oh, Illinois beat them by a gazillion, 53? Okay, so you look at that. Maybe we should put Indiana above an Ohio State there. I'm okay with it. It's not the end of the world, but I do have an issue with us saying, hey, we're going to rank them because we think this is a better team. We can't rank based on what we think is a better team, okay? That's not a real system, because my 25 better teams are going to be different than Joe Schmo's 25 better teams. They're going to be different than yours, Lily Bo, okay? They're going to be different. Okay? A&M at 3, Alabama 4, Georgia at number 5, Ole Miss at number 6. Look, head-to-head there. Alabama beat Georgia. Georgia beat Ole Miss. They continued that head-to-head trend over with Texas and Oklahoma, as well as with Virginia and Louisville. But where they did not continue that trend, and where I have the biggest issue in this top 25, is with Notre Dame and Miami. Okay, so we're going to go back to the head-to-head. Okay, Alabama beat Georgia. They have the same record. Alabama is now ahead of Georgia. Okay, fine with that. Georgia beat Ole Miss. They have the same record. Georgia beat Ole Miss. Therefore, they're ahead of Ole Miss. Cool. All right, makes sense to me. Same with Texas and Oklahoma. Hey, this is what I've been touting in my top 25 each week. Completely okay with that. All of that matches. All of that makes sense with the rational brain. Okay, Virginia and Louisville. Virginia beat Louisville. They have the same record. Oh, makes sense that Virginia would be ahead of Louisville. Okay, let's see. Let's get down to Miami at number 18, and then Notre Dame fighting Irish at number 10. Oh, what's Notre Dame's record? 6-2. Oh, Miami 6-2. Well, how does that work? How does that work? Who won? Do you think these teams maybe played at some point this season? Let's just say if these teams played at some point in this season, maybe like a Texas and an Oklahoma on maybe they played each other and one of those teams won and now they have the same record. Maybe we would put one of those teams ahead of the other team. Maybe we would do that. Maybe we would do that. Do we have that result with Miami and Notre Dame this year? Do we know? Did they play? They did play. They did play. That's right, Ian. Thank you for bringing that up. Notre Dame and Miami did play this year, all the way back in week one. I don't care that it was in week one. We've seen them play. That result should mean a lot when they have the same record. If you got the same record, head to head needs to matter, ladies and gentlemen, because the committee, if you argue against Louisville over Virginia right now, Louisville probably has overall better wins than Virginia does, other than that Virginia win against Louisville. So the committee is probably saying, hey, we recognize that, Louisville, but you lost to Virginia. So if they're justifying putting Virginia ahead of Louisville, putting Texas ahead of an OU, putting Alabama ahead of Georgia, putting Georgia ahead of an Ole Miss, if they're justifying all of that because of the head-to-head result, then there's an inconsistency with Notre Dame and Miami. Notre Dame's done virtually nothing impressive this year. They beat a USC team. I guess that's a nice win. Right? Is that a nice win? Well, guess what Miami did? They beat the committee's supposed 10 team in the country. That's who Miami beat. Okay, and you got the same record. Shouldn't we put Miami ahead of Notre Dame? I think we should, ladies and gentlemen. I think Miami's about right where they should be. I think they're in the 13 to 20 range. Miami is, but wherever they are, Notre Dame's got to be behind them until they have different records, ladies and gentlemen. Until you got different records, the head-to-head has to matter. Now, the biggest thing from this rankings is that the ACC is screwed. The ACC is in a terrible, terrible situation, folks. They have 3 Big 12 teams ahead of them, Utah, Tech, and BYU. Virginia is their leader in the rankings right now. And if we just took top 12 teams, the ACC would not get in. But because we have the auto bid for the conference champ, you would presume that would be a Virginia, okay, based on the rankings. Virginia would now be in. Texas and Oklahoma would be out because we would put a G5 team in who's not even ranked in their rankings. Just a disaster of a system we have here, ladies and gentlemen. Just a disaster of a system. So if you look at it right now, if everything plays out, let's say all of these teams do what they're supposed to do to finish the season, and now all of them can't technically do what they're supposed to do because some of them play each other. However, it's looking like the Big Ten is going to be a 3-bid team. Okay, so you get 3 there in the Big Ten. You're going to get 1 G5. Okay, so that's 4. You're going to get Notre Dame. That's 5. You're going to get did I already say G5? You get 3 Big Ten, a G5, and a Notre Dame. That's 5 right there. Okay, and then you're going to get your 1 ACC. That's 6 teams right there. That is 6 teams. Then you're going to get a Big 12. That's 7 teams. This seemingly is paving the way for a 5-bid SEC college football playoff, okay? That is seemingly what is happening here. We're going to get 3 Big Ten. We're going to get a Notre Dame. We're going to get a G5. We're going to get an ACC. We're going to get a Big 12. That's 7. We got 5 left. It's seemingly going to be a 5-way college football playoff for the SEC because because BYU and Texas Tech play each other this weekend. They play each other this weekend. Huge, huge result. You got to win that game if you're both of those two teams. If you want the auto bid, they need to be in the Big 12 championship game. Utah can't. They just got to hope and pray, and hopefully something works out that Oklahoma loses, Texas loses, and Utah can just rise up, sneak into this thing without playing in the Big 12 championship. But if you're Texas Tech and BYU, you got to win the thing, okay? Now, the good thing is, for both of them, the loser of this game is not going to fall further than 12, okay? That is going to be the bottom spot for Texas Tech and BYU. So technically, they would still be in the playoff. They wouldn't be in the playoff, but they would be in the top 12. Now you're thinking, how do you know they're only going to fall to 12? Because Utah right there is number 13. both of those two teams beat Utah, there is no way that the committee is going to put them behind Utah. Okay, no way. And you're thinking, Ian, didn't they do that with Notre Dame and Miami? I did, but I think this would be a little different, is my gut feeling, okay? Bottom of the top 25 here, we got Iowa in there. Love that. Top 20 matchup with Oregon and Iowa this weekend. You already know, you don't know. We are doing the preview for Oregon, Iowa here later in the video. Woo! It's going to be a fun one. And then we have Pitt. I love Pitt. Pitt might be the most underrated team in the entire country right now at 24. I love them a lot. Sneaky team to win the ACC and jump all the way in to the top 12. If you remember last year, Clemson was at number 23, I believe, in the initial CFP rankings. They ended up winning the ACC, getting in there. So the ACC, again, for the second straight year is just, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Overall, the biggest issue is that Notre Dame at number 10, the Fighting Irish at number 10. I cannot get behind that. But it is what it is. Nothing you can do about it. The games will be played. Okay, so we're going to transition into the first game preview, which is that number 7 BYU and number 8 Texas Tech. Okay, you have seen my reaction to the college football playoff rankings. As of right now, you know if this is indeed a top 10 matchup. I think it will be, but you know exactly. Is BYU number 7? How high did BYU get? Is Texas Tech number 8? What are they? You know, I do not know, but for all intents and purposes, we are treating this game as a top 10 Big 12 showdown in West Texas, Lubbock, America. Ladies and gentlemen, this game is massive for all reasons. Okay, number one reason, it is massive for the Big 12 conference as a whole. It is massive for Texas Tech, the university, the city of Lubbock, the state of Texas, mainly the western part. Some of the central parts, some of those people like Texas Tech as well, but it's mainly those western people. They're all Texas Tech people, okay? I know. I'm close with some of them. A lot of people out there love Texas Tech, and you thought, well, who loves Texas Tech? They're out there. Those people exist, ladies and gentlemen. And the people also exist for the BYU Cougars. BYU, you win this game? How is it happening? BYU, again, possibly the highest-ranked Big 12 team in back-to-back years, the first week of the college football playoff rankings. Maybe some are saying they don't play anybody. Maybe some are saying they don't play anybody until the back half of the season. Doesn't matter. They're playing Texas Tech this weekend in Lubbock, Texas. These two teams are atop the Big 12 standings currently. BYU, obviously undefeated. Texas Tech has the one loss. Now, BYU plays the other two top teams, number 2 and number 3 in the Big 12, the last four weeks of the season. Texas Tech this weekend, and then Cincinnati in a couple weeks. Texas Tech only plays BYU, and Cincinnati only plays BYU. So naturally, because BYU plays both of them, one of those three teams is going to be eliminated, which will give us a top 2 clearly defined in the Big 12 after this weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Let's jump right in. As you all know, we start with the visiting team here on the Ian Fritts Show. If you do not know, now you know. We break it down by what we know, a couple things we know about each of these teams, and then a couple questions we need answered. And if they get answered, we will know who wins this game on Saturday. BYU. I got to take a sip here, folks. Got to take a sip here. Oh, man, that is so good. Water. BYU. People have doubted this team. That is the first thing we know about this BYU Cougar football team. They've been doubted left and right. I've doubted them left and right. I know you've doubted them left and right because nobody believes in Kalani Sitake in this BYU Cougar football team. Nobody does. It happened last year. Even the committee doubted them last year. They were 8-0, 9-0, same as they are now. And the committee, I believe, put them 10th in the first initial college football playoff rankings. Could they do that again this week? You already know. I don't know. But it wouldn't shock me because everybody doubts this BYU Cougar football team. Raise your hand if you do. Everybody's raising their hands. That is me. They've been doubted left and right this season. I've doubted them. I'm doubting them. So I'm not doubting them. Vegas is doubting them again this weekend. 10.5-point underdogs in Lubbock, Texas this weekend. 10.5-point underdogs. BYU hadn't lost a football game. Everybody's doubting them left and right. That is the one thing we know about this football team. And we also know it doesn't matter if they're doubted. They respond They're resilient, and they give them their best shot every weekend. Okay, you think a couple weeks ago, everyone doubted them against Utah. Hey, raise your hand again. Yeah, everyone, including myself, was doubting them against Utah. What did they do? They beat Utah. They responded when people doubted them. And I'm thinking this is just something that BYU likes to do. I'm thinking they just want to be doubted. They schedule nobody in the non-conference. They somehow get with the Big 12 commissioner and say, hey, schedule the worst Big 12 teams for us at the beginning half of the year. Let us get undefeated by playing a bunch of nobodies and let people doubt us. And then we respond. And we give them our best football at the end of the year. That's what they've done this year. Can they continue to do it? All we know is they have been doubted. Second thing we know about this BYU Cougar football team, Bear Bachmeier. Yes, you heard that correctly. Bear Bachmeier, true freshman quarterback. Where's the number 47? 47, just aside, we need to get with Bear. Hey, Bear, if you're watching this, you should be, number one. And if you are, thank you. Number two, we got to talk about the number situation, man. You cannot be wearing number 47 as the quarterback at BYU. Okay, we got to handle that. Bring back the regulations on numbers in college football. We need to get a hold of that, corral that. We can't have a 47 running around out there playing quarterback. Doesn't make any sense. It's really weird when you watch it. Okay, some of the Texas Tech fans out there are going to be watching BYU for the first time this weekend, and they're going to say, "Hey, is that a number 47? What happened to their quarterback? Is that a wide receiver? Is that a linebacker? What's this going on? They don't even have a quarterback. We're going to smoke these Cougars. We're going to smoke them because they don't even have a quarterback." Don't let that fool you, Texas Tech fans. Number 47 is their quarterback, okay? And let me tell you, he is a dog. Some may say, no, Ian, he's a Cougar. Well, if Cougars were dogs, Bear Bachmeier would be a Cougar. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, he is unbelievable for a true freshman. And what we know, yes, he is a dog, but we also know that he will need the best game of his life this weekend to beat this stout, sturdy, elite group of Texas Tech Red Raider defenders. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, he will need his best game of his life. That is the second thing we know. And that tandems right into the first question for BYU this weekend. Bear Bachmeier is going to need to play his biggest game of the season on Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Going to need to play lights out to beat this Texas Tech Red Raider football team. The question is, how does he respond to the environment he's going to be thrown into on Saturday? This is going to be by far the toughest environment Mr. Bachmeier has played in all year long. You could say maybe Iowa State on the road. No. Iowa State on the road is not going to compare to what Lubbock, Texas is doing to him, sound-wise, crowd-wise, what they're saying to him on the sidelines on Saturday morning. Not going to compare to what he experienced at Iowa State. This is going to be a different animal, a different environment, a different atmosphere that he has felt. We've asked this question several times this year because it's a question you ask unproven, unexperienced quarterbacks, okay? How do they respond to an atmosphere like this? Bryce Underwood, we asked it when they went to Oklahoma. Didn't respond great. That kind of told you the story of the entire football game. Ty Simpson 2 times this year on the road at Florida State and then on the road at Georgia. First time, wasn't so great, Ty. Second time, lights out, balled out, okay? Gunnar Stockton on the road at Tennessee. How was he going to respond? Really his first road test. Lights out, balled out, okay? John Mateer on the road at Tennessee. Maybe not the best game, but he responded, willed his team to a win. Okay, so this is a question that you need answered for an unproven guy on the road. How does he respond? How does Bear Bachmeier, number 47, again, bleh, how does he respond to the atmosphere he's put in? If he responds well, BYU and Bear Bachmeier have every chance to win this football game. Every chance to win this football game if he responds like a Gunnar Stockton did on the road in Knoxville, Tennessee. If he doesn't, if he responds like a Bryce Underwood on the road in Norman, Oklahoma, got to be a long night for the Cougars, okay? Second question. BYU has been exceptional at forcing turnovers, extremely opportunistic. Can they do that this weekend? Can they continue that trend, okay? They're going to need it to Boom. Easy answer to that question. They're going to need to force turnovers to beat Texas Tech this weekend because I have a sneaking suspicion, and we'll talk about it with Texas Tech. I have a sneaking suspicion that BYU offensively is going to have a hard time scoring in this football game. So they're going to need all the help from that BYU Cougar defense this weekend, okay? They have 12 interceptions on the year. They're third in turnover margin in the entire country on the year. Exceptional stuff from the Cougar defense, okay? Baron Morton occasionally has some turnover issues. You look at the Utah game, had a couple turnovers early in that game. Didn't matter. Texas Tech flattened Utah right after those turnovers. So it didn't really matter. But can BYU force him to make those same mistakes that Utah's defense did in week 4 or 5, whatever that was earlier in the season? Can they continue to force turnovers? Okay, those are the two big questions for BYU. Texas Tech, Red Raiders. How about this? You guys get the biggest game in college football. Good for you guys in Lubbock, America down there. Good for you guys. What do we know about this Texas Tech Red Raider football team? First thing we know, and this may have an effect on the football game, but it has nothing to do with the actual football being played. Okay, first thing we know, there will be no tortillas thrown. There will be no tortillas thrown in this football game. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you're thinking tortillas thrown. Yeah, Ian, it's a football game. No. Texas Tech, they throw tortillas onto the field. Pretty much anytime there's a kickoff, anytime somebody scores, they're throwing tortillas onto the field, okay? And then you got to pause the game. Hey, we got to go get the tortillas off the field. Not anymore. Big 12 will now fine Texas Tech. They will give them a 15-yard penalty now if they throw tortillas. And just a PSA to all the Texas Tech people out there, do not throw a tortilla this weekend. You cannot afford to get a 15-yard penalty on Saturday morning. You cannot afford to do that. Do not throw a tortilla. So that's what we know. The tortillas are either not going to be thrown or there will be penalties, consequences associated with the tortillas being thrown. The second thing we know about Texas Tech, and this actually is important, has everything to do with the football team, okay? This defense, we alluded to it earlier, is nasty. Nasty. They get after the quarterback. They force turnovers. They have one of the best linebacker groups in all of college football. They are unbelievable, okay? And we're going to highlight a few players here for them right now. And I don't think we can start anywhere other than the man, the myth, the legend, Jacob Rodriguez, okay? Linebacker for Texas Tech. Let me tell you, if you have not watched Texas Tech football this year, you are in for a treat on Saturday morning to watch this young man play football. I saw something going around earlier this year ranking, the top 12 players in all of college football. Jacob Rodriguez was not on that list. He needs to be on that list. This very well may be the best linebacker, not an edge linebacker hybrid, but just pure linebacker in the country. That's how good he is. And you're thinking, Texas Tech has the best linebacker in college football? Yeah, they do, ladies and gentlemen. Get to know his name, Jacob Rodriguez. Wears a mustache, doesn't wear a mustache, has a mustache. He leads the country in forced fumbles, 7 of them. You're thinking, whoa, 7 forced fumbles in his career, Ian? No. That is this year. He has 13 in his career. The man knows how to find the football, and he knows how to get it out of the runner's hands, okay? He is better than anybody in the country at it, and he does it seemingly, it feels like he does it 5-6 times a game. Now, obviously you're thinking 7, that doesn't add up. It doesn't add up, but that's how often he's around the football, and that's how often it seems like it happens, because 7 is an extraordinary amount of forced fumbles. So watch out for Jacob Rodriguez this weekend. The second guy we need to highlight, David Bailey, okay? He leads the country in sacks at 11.5. And you're thinking, Texas Tech has a defense? Yeah, they have one of the best linebackers in all of college football, if not the best, in Jacob Rodriguez, and they have one of the best edge players in college football, if not the best, in David Bailey. 11.5 sacks. 11.5. You're thinking, well, he's probably half of those are probably assisted, probably half of those are half sacks. No, ladies and gentlemen. 10 of those are solo sacks. David Bailey is getting after the quarterback by himself, and he is getting after the quarterback in every single game. Okay, he has 14 tackles for loss. That is good for 4th in the country. Those two guys are definitely the studs of this Texas Tech Red Raider defense, but they are not the only guys that they have, okay? They fly around the football. They have a cornerback. His name is eluding me at this very moment. They have a cornerback that is top 10 in interceptions this year, okay? So they, at all three levels, have a guy that they can rely on, okay? This defense is nasty. Now, questions for Texas Tech this weekend. Number one, how aggressive are they offensively? How aggressive are they offensively? I believe, from what I've seen from them this year, they're at their best when they are throwing that football down the field, just launching it down the field to guys like Coy Eakin, with Baron Morton throwing him the football. That is when they're at their best, is when they are launching this thing downfield. I believe, from what I've seen, that opens up their run game more than their run game opens up the downfield attack. You always say you got to get the run game going, get the guys into the box, and then you can attack over the top. Not for Texas Tech. Not for Texas Tech. They get it over the top from the get-go, and then they're able to wear on you with the run game, okay? That is how Texas Tech likes to do it. Now, how aggressive are they early? Do they rely on their defense? And then that does help them. With how good their defense is, they are able to be aggressive because they can say, hey, David Bailey, Jacob Rodriguez, those guys are going to go out there and get a 3 and out for us. They're going to go dominate this BYU offense. So we can launch the football downfield all day. I believe they will be aggressive on Saturday. Just how aggressive will they be? Okay? Second question we have for Texas Tech this weekend. How good are they at stopping BYU's wide receivers? Okay? Now, you're thinking, Ian, didn't you just tell us how good Texas Tech's defense is? I did. However, the best offense they have faced is probably Arizona State. Okay, you could argue maybe Kansas, but Kansas kind of fallen off lately. Okay, so I would still say it's Arizona State with Sam Levitt and Jordan Tyson there at wide receiver. So they've played a unit with a great quarterback and a really great wide receiver. Okay, they haven't played a team with a great quarterback and two really good wide receivers. Okay. BYU has two wide receivers, both white guys, by the way, over 500 yards receiving this year. This is by far the best group of wide receivers Texas Tech has faced this year. So they have the one stud cornerback. But can they get the other wide receiver? Can they handle him? Okay, they may be able to shut one of them down, but can they shut both of them down? Okay, they're going to need to on Saturday because BYU can beat you. They can beat you. A lot of people are doubting BYU. Even Vegas, 10.5. BYU can get you. They can get you offensively. So how does Tech respond to two stud wide receivers? Even three. He doesn't have quite the yardage, but he is a good player for BYU. So how do they respond to the best wide receiver group they have faced this season? Now, who's going to win this game? Who's going to cover? What do we think here at the Ian Fritts Show? Look, the gut right now, my brain is saying, Ian, it's Texas Tech minus 10.5. Don't overthink this. They're a better football team. That defense is unbelievable. However, as you all know, I only go with what the gut says here at the Ian Fritts Show. And the gut says, do not doubt this BYU Cougar football team. Take them plus the points, but Texas Tech and Lubbock get the win. Next game up, Texas A&M at Missouri. Going to take a sip here before we dive into this one. The Aggies and the Tigers both coming off byes. In my mind, this is kind of a different bye week for both of these teams. Okay, Texas A&M ran through the first half of their season, beating good teams, offense putting up unreal numbers with Marcel Reed, Mario Craver, Casey Concepcion, you name it. Every offensive player has seemingly scored a touchdown, even the offensive linemen. So they're taking this last week. They're getting a little rest on the bye week. Missouri doesn't have that luxury. They can't do that because they have to get a true freshman prepped and ready for the best team they faced all year. Okay? Now, good for Missouri. They had 2 weeks to do it because of that bye week. They had 2 weeks to get Matt Zollers ready for this game. So a little bit of a different bye week for both of these two football teams. Okay? We're jumping right in. It's Texas A&M. They're the visiting team. They're probably a top 3 team in the college football playoff rankings. What do we know about the Texas A&M Aggies? First thing we know, Marcel Reed is by far and away the best, most dynamic quarterback Missouri has faced this season. He may not be the best. I know I just said the best, most dynamic. He may not be the best. Ty Simpson may be the best pure quarterback. But Marcel Reed is the most dynamic, slippery guy Missouri has faced this season. Okay, we know that. We know that about Texas A&M. Second thing we know, the offensive line for Texas A&M is a top 5 unit in all of college football. They protect Marcel Reed, and part of that is because Marcel Reed is so slippery. He is able to make his offensive line look better. What's the best way to have an offensive line look really good? You have a quarterback that can escape a bunch of things. Okay, that makes your offensive line look really good when you look at the numbers. They are number 11 in sack percentage given up, so they're protecting him really well. Marcel Reed's getting out of the pocket really well. So those kind of go in tandem. That is what we know about this Texas A&M football team, specifically for the matchup this weekend against Missouri. Biggest question. I just mentioned how good their offensive line was. That's the biggest question. That is where this game is won or lost for Texas A&M on Saturday. Okay, how does the O-line hold up? It's the best defensive line they will have faced this season. Okay, you may think Auburn. Auburn got after them a little bit, held them to what was that? 20 points. Auburn held Texas A&M to 20 points, somewhere around 20 points, 24 maybe. Can't remember exactly. This defensive line from Missouri is the best group A&M has faced all season long. The best group. Okay, Missouri's 10th in sack rate. So they have an equal, if not better, defensive line in terms of sack rate and pressure rate than Texas A&M offensive line has given up this year, okay? So that's the matchup to look for. That's the matchup to watch in this game. Second question for Texas A&M. They have far and away the best third down defense in the country. I'll just let you take a guess. Off the top of your head, shout it out loud in your room, in your car, wherever you are. Oh, probably they've given up maybe 35% of their third downs they face. Maybe 38% of their third downs. That's probably really good, right, Ian? Wrong. 21%. They've only given up 1 out of every 5 third downs you face against this team, you get. Okay? Recipe for success? No. That is a recipe for disaster. Okay? Missouri, on the other hand, is a top 20 third down offense. Okay? So do those trends continue? Do those trends continue? If they continue for A&M, going to be a good day for the Aggies. If it doesn't, Missouri may have something going. Missouri, what do we know about the Tigers? First off, it's going to be Matt Zoller's first career start, 2 weeks to prepare. That should help. Now, when he came in against Vanderbilt, he looked pretty solid. However, they were down in that football game when he came in. He was able to just let it rip, not think a little bit. All he had to do was try and go win a football game on the road. He didn't have to think about a lot of things, didn't have to process a lot of things because it wasn't on him if they lost. Now, you have 2 weeks to prepare. They're probably not going to put the game on his shoulders. I would think they lean on Ahmad Hardy, okay, running back there from Missouri, best running back in the country, by the way. I would think they lean on him, give Zollers a little bit more time in the pocket, get that run game going for Missouri. But this is his first career start. You need to be aware of that when you're watching this game on Saturday. Number 2, penalties. Missouri is top 20 in penalties per game. It bit them hard against Vanderbilt. It bit them hard against Alabama. Both of their losses were in part due to the penalties they sustained, okay? At the beginning of the Alabama game, they get a 3 and out. That place is rocking. Nope, not a 3 and out because one of their best defensive players, Young, taunts an Alabama player. Boom, free 15 yards for Alabama. Alabama goes and gets 7 points. All those points matter in close SEC games like I'm expecting in Columbia, Missouri on Saturday. So penalties. That is synonymous with this Missouri football team. Biggest question. Number 1. It was a no. We knew it. Similar to Bear Bachmeier. How does Zollers respond to this being his first career start? Okay. How does he respond? They go 3 and out a couple times in a row. Is he down on himself? He throws a couple interceptions in the first half. Is he pouting around? How does he respond? We don't know how this true freshman responds. We've never seen him play other than a quarter against Vanderbilt. And again, he didn't have to go out there and have all this pressure on himself. He has some pressure on Saturday against Texas A&M if he has a couple interceptions in the first half. Columbia might be booing him. Okay, they might be booing the true freshman. How does he respond? How does he handle it? It helps that he's at home. Number 2, the defense is the strength of this team for Missouri. Is it enough? Is it enough for them to carry this team to a win? They're going to need to. Again, because of the true freshman quarterback. They're going to need to carry the team on Saturday. Now, Texas A&M, most high-powered, most high-potent offense they faced all season long. Does that matter? Or is Missouri's defense just that good that it doesn't matter? We need to find out on Saturday. Let's go to the result. What do we think? The gut. Again, I go with the gut here at the Fritts Show. The gut is telling me Missouri, with Matt Zollers at quarterback, true freshman, is going to win this football game and cover. So I'm going to take them plus the 6.5, but I'm also going to take them outright. Give me Missouri. Give me the Tigers to win in Columbia off their bye. Last game preview. Going to take a sip before we dive into Oregon at Iowa. Oh, man, that's some good stuff, water. Oregon at Iowa. You're thinking, Oregon at Iowa? Are you sure, Ian? You want to preview this game? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I'm not sure anybody's talking about this football game this weekend, and they should be. Sneaky game of the week. It may be ugly. It may be low scoring. It may be nasty. It may not be the most appealing football you've ever watched, but it may be the best game of the weekend. It may have the most implications in all of college football this weekend. Okay? Oregon, we really haven't heard from them since they lost to Indiana. They stomped all over Rutgers, and then they beat Wisconsin, a horrible Wisconsin team, by 14. It was actually the closest game Wisconsin has played in the last month and a half. Iowa, we haven't heard from them maybe all year. You haven't paid attention to the Hawkeyes and what they're doing, rightfully so. Other than me, I have. I've been paying attention to all these teams. Did you know that one of their losses was to Indiana, and it was the closest loss or the closest win that Indiana has all year by 5 points? They have 2 losses, Iowa does, by a combined 8 points. Those are the 2 teams. Those are where they are at. We're going to jump right into Oregon. What do we know about the Oregon Ducks and Dan Lanning? Number one, this may shock you. This may shock you. This is what we know about them. They are on fraud watch. You're thinking, what? This guy's crazy. Ian is crazy. I am crazy, but it is true. Their best win is a 2-overtime win against Penn State. And as you all know, I equated Penn State to the Citadel earlier today. The score in the Indiana game does not do justice on telling the full story of how that game went. They got dominated in that football game. Okay? So you lose this game on the road at Iowa. It is official. Put the stamp on it. Fraudulent Oregon Ducks this year. Fraudulent Oregon Ducks. Okay? So that's on the line for the Ducks this weekend. Second thing we know. Dante Moore rose to the occasion at Penn State. That was his best game of the season, in my opinion. May not be his best game statistically, but you given the circumstances, given who he was playing, the talent on that team, it was his best game of the season. He seems to be a guy that rises to the occasion, okay? So we've got a guy at quarterback that rises to the occasion. This will be the toughest place he has played since that Penn State game. Is he a guy that needs all that juice to get him juiced up to play his best? We saw it against Penn State. Seemingly, that's what he needs. He needs an incredible atmosphere to get him hyped up. He rises to the occasion, balled out against Penn State. I think we can expect him to have a solid outing against Iowa on Saturday. Biggest question. Oregon, their defense. They have played 2 good offenses. Or, their defense. Their offense has played 2 good defenses, Penn State and Indiana. The offense at times in those games, stalled out a little bit, especially against Indiana. Really, it never really got going against the Indiana Hoosiers. 13 total points on 12 drives in that football game. Not what you're looking for. So, does that change this weekend? I think it'll have to change because Iowa, if you're not aware, has a top 10 defense in virtually every category in college football this season. Same story, different year for Iowa. We'll get to that later. So, does the offense respond? Has Dan Lanning figured that group out off of the bye week? Does the offense know how to play a good defense? We need to find out on Saturday. Number 2, how aggressive is Dan Lanning? Okay. He has always been an uber aggressive, ultra aggressive guy as a head coach since his tenure at Oregon started. He's gone for virtually every 4th down. I want to say, I don't know the statistics off the top of my head, but I would be shocked if it's less than 75% of the time at your own 40 and past that he goes for it. Would be shocked if it's less than that. He seemingly goes for it every single time. Now, a good sign in a head coach, a good sign of a good head coach is that you adapt, you adjust, you change how you do things based on the game at hand, okay? We can know this weekend that Iowa's not going to go put up 55 points. We know that's not going to happen. So, does Dan Lanning realize that? And does he scale back his aggressiveness on Saturday and lean on his exceptional defense? Or does he just pedal to the metal like he always does and maybe possibly don't get a 4th and 2 at your own 35-yard line? And Iowa only has to kick a field goal because they go backwards 10 yards. But they still get it. That's 3 points. How aggressive is Dan Lanning on Saturday? We need that answered. Iowa. I only know one thing about this football team. It's the same thing I've always known about them every single year forever. It is the same team every single year, folks. It is the same team every single year. They got a top 10 defense with a bad offense, okay? Iowa is bottom 20 in most offensive categories, especially in the passing statistics, okay? However, their defense is top 10 in yards per pass. They're top 10 in pass yards per game. They're top 10 in turnover margin. Iowa's defense is awesome. Their offense, bleh, gross. Okay, so that's what we know about Iowa. Biggest question. Are they able to score offensively? Okay, now some of you may be laughing at that. You may be thinking, Ian, that is a horrible. Of course they're going to be able to score. Of course they're going to be able to score offensively. It's been a struggle for Iowa at times to score offensively this year. Sometimes they don't even do it and they still win football games. You're thinking, what, is that possible? Yeah, it is. Special team scores, pick sixes, fumble recoveries for touchdowns, field goals, just 10 of them a game. Okay, that's Iowa. Is that going to be enough on Saturday? Is that going to be enough on Saturday? No offensive touchdowns for the Iowa Hawkeyes, because that may be the recipe for success for Iowa, is that they may not be able to score offensively, yet they could still win this football game. That's Iowa, okay? Now, who's going to win? What is the pick I have? It's Oregon minus 6.5 right now. Somehow, some way, these Iowa Hawkeyes in Kinnick Stadium in the middle of nowhere, Iowa, they're going to get it done, and they're going to put the stamp of fraudulent team on the Oregon Ducks on Saturday. Give me Iowa to win this football game. Next up, upset alerts. Okay, we got 6 of them. And if you're new here, the way I do upset alerts is I take 6 games, 6 with a point spread of 6 or more, because I believe, anything less than that isn't really an upset. I need a touchdown or more to be confident that I can call it an upset. So we take 6 games and we rank them least likely to most likely. Okay, last week, guess what was the most likely game? Georgia Tech at NC State. We said NC State was going to win. What do you think happened? NC State won. That's 2 weeks in a row, ladies and gentlemen, that the number one team on the upset alert segment has lost, folks. Has lost. Okay, we're starting with Texas Tech. I believe Texas Tech has the least likely chance to be upset this weekend. And you're thinking, Ian, didn't you take BYU plus 10.5? I did. I did take BYU plus 10.5. However, all of these games would not shock me if all of the underdogs lost or all of the underdogs won this weekend. So we're going to put Tech at the least likely. Second least likely, we're going to have Georgia minus 7.5 at Mississippi State. And you're thinking, there's no way this game is close, Ian. Really? You don't think so? Georgia, dogfight against Florida last weekend. Who do they play next week? Do you know? I know. Texas. Night game. The whole college football world is going to be looking at them next week. So is it a letdown look-ahead spot for the Georgia Bulldogs? It could be. Wouldn't shock me. Would not shock me. Georgia minus 7.5 is the second least likely. Right there in the middle at number 3 is the Alabama Crimson Tide minus 10.5 at home against LSU. Okay? At home against LSU, you're thinking, Ian, how is that even on here? How is that even on here? LSU just fired everybody. Okay, yeah. This team's going to respond. They're off a bye. They're going to respond. All they've done this week and last week was prepare for Alabama. They're going to respond. That's the third least likely, fourth most likely upset. The top 3, here we go. Just going to throw this out there. I think all 3 of these are going to happen. I think Oregon's going to lose to Iowa. I think Texas A&M is going to lose to Missouri. And I think Virginia is going to lose to Wake Forest. So all 3 of those are going to happen this weekend. However, I put them in an order. I would put Oregon as the third most likely, Texas A&M as the second most likely, and then Virginia as the most likely upset this weekend. Again, 2 weeks in a row, the number 1 most likely upset team has lost. And for the past 2 weeks, at least 2 of these teams, it was 3 2 weeks ago, but 2 last week, at least 3 of these teams have lost outright. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this upset alert segment is on fire lately. At least one We know that for sure. At least one of these teams that is favored is going to lose on Saturday. Going to be a fun weekend. Let's jump into the picks. Okay, here we go. The game picks. These are the top 25 teams according to the College Football Playoff Committee. I pick each of those teams' games every weekend. This is the first weekend. Normally I do the AP poll, but now we do the actual College Football Playoff Committee rankings teams. So we got 12, 15 games here to pick against the spread. We are on a roll right now with the picks. Winning record, winning record, winning record, winning record, winning money. Pay attention to these picks and pay attention to what my gut tells you to do. Without further ado, we jump right in. USC minus 14.5. Short week. They're traveling across the country. I don't care. Jaden Maiva, I believe he's going to have a huge game. Indiana at Penn State. Give me Indiana minus 13.5. Georgia at Mississippi State. It's going to be Mississippi State plus 7.5. Georgia, let down look ahead spot possibly. They got Texas next weekend. Night game in Athens. They're coming off a huge rivalry game against Florida. Could be a spot where, hey, they're just a little tired, a little juiced up for next week. A lot of energy focused next week and the past week. Maybe a letdown spot here for Georgia. BYU at Texas Tech. You already know because you saw earlier. I'm taking BYU plus the 10.5. Ohio State minus 28.5 at Purdue. That's a lot of points. I just love Julian saying. So give me minus 28.5. I think it'll happen. Ole Miss, no spread there, but give me Ole Miss to win. A&M in Missouri, you already know. I took Missouri plus the 6.5 and to win there. Same with Iowa and Oregon. Give me Iowa plus 6.5. And then Miami, Syracuse. Miami's reeling a little bit right now, ladies and gentlemen. They are reeling. They are falling. They are stumbling. Not a great look for the Hurricanes right now. But I like them to cover the 27.5. Syracuse is not a good football team right now, ladies and gentlemen. Auburn at Vandy, minus 7.5 for the Commodores. Okay, coming off a loss on the road at Texas. Auburn coming off what seemingly is like their 15th loss in a row. Just fired their head coach. DJ Durkin is now taking over the head coaching duties. What do we think about Auburn right now, folks? What do we think? I know what I think. I would think, hey, take Vandy minus 7.5. But that's not what I'm going to do because my gut is telling me take Auburn plus 7.5. Give me Washington minus 11.5. And then, ladies and gentlemen, you already know, give me Wake Forest plus the 6.5 to upset Virginia. It's coming for Virginia. I'm going to keep picking against them because eventually they're going to lose one of these last few football games. It's going to happen. Virginia is going to lose. It's going to happen, folks. It is going to happen. They can't keep getting away with it. They can't keep doing it. Give me Louisville minus 18.5 at home against Cal. Coming across the country. Don't love that spot for Cal. And they give me Notre Dame fighting Irish, fraudulent top 10 team there, minus 24.5. LSU at Alabama. Similarly to Auburn at Vanderbilt this weekend. Fired their head coach, had a bye week to prepare for this. Whit Weeks is supposedly probably going to be back for this game for LSU. And Alabama looking ahead to a top 15 matchup at home against Oklahoma next weekend, possibly. I love LSU in this spot. Give me LSU plus the 10.5 there, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. That is the Week 11 preview show. It was packed. Long show for you today, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you enjoy it. If you do enjoy it, even if you don't, subscribe down below, comment, like this video, turn that bell on, and then follow on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram as well. I love you guys. Bye.
Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free. It's picked up by Michigan State's Jalen Watts Jackson, and he scores on the last play of the game.
25, 40, 45, 50, 45. There it goes.